It was anybody's ball game to start at the 3M from TPC Twin Cities on CBS. 13 players within 4 shots of the lead at 18 under. Akshay Bhatia, your favorite, not to be heard from much throughout Sunday. Left the door open for others, including Kurt Kitayama. Fresh off tying the course record on Saturday with a 60 and not letting off the gas on Sunday. Out in 28 a day ago, trying to do better. His approach into the first to 5 feet. State your intentions clearly. Kitayama. A circle to start, then at the second from 120 yards out, the wedge game was on point. Nearly holds it for eagle. Come on, Kurt. Would make that kick in for the solo lead. To the third we go, because he wasn't slowing down. Despite missing the green, Kitayama, short-sided, still finds the bottom of the cup for birdie. Off and running to 20 under. Birdies on 15 of his last 21 holes, an all-time heater. A par at 4 to prove he's human, and then at the par 4 fifth. Again, a 120-something number, and he was just comfy from there all weekend long. This one takes a peek for eagle as well. Another kick-in birdie, stress-free to 21 under. Kitayama throwing darts, 180. Any darts fans out there? Another birdie at the par 5-6, moves him to 22 deep, and not done on the front just yet. The par 3 eighth. Every bit at 201 on Sunday, and another great look for birdie. 4 feet, the proximity to the hole, stellar on the weekend. His 6th birdie on the front 9 takes a 4-shot lead to 23 under, 29 going out. After 28 a day ago, becomes the first player to post back-to-back sub-30 scores on the same 9 since 2015. Would it amount to a win? Jake Knapp trying to do something about it at the par 4 11th from 17 feet. Don't sleep on nap time. Moves to 20 under, just 3 back of Kitayama. After a bogey by Kurt Kitayama, Knapp now gets within 1 shot with the short birdie putt at number 12. Knapp, 21 under in solo second, but wouldn't be enough for Napper. Forced the issue on 18, made a mistake, finished T3 at 20 under. Kitayama pushing ahead to the par 4 14th after a bounce-back birdie at 12. Flags an unbelievable shot from the fairway bunker. All carry over the water from 192 yards. And I mean, does anyone know any hard games? It got hard coming home because the pressure of a victory will always be felt. A par save at 17, catches the lip, he gives one back. Brutal miss there, and Sam Stevens trying to take advantage. His 4th shot into the par 5 finisher, gotta hole it to match Kitayama, and he almost does. Just misses. Stevens trying to will the ball into the hole, but just didn't break left the way he wanted. Now Kitayama has got it in his hands. In a spot of bother at the last. 3 from there, and he's your winner. Downhill lie in the bunker, staring at water long. Not where you want to leave yourself, but he leaves himself 17 feet. 2 putts from there, and you are winner at the 3M. Kitayama just dripping one down the hill and leaves himself a tap-in for the win. Kurt Kitayama with his brother on the bag. His 2nd career PGA Tour win coming at the 3M at TPC Twin Cities. Stellar stuff on the weekend out of Kitayama. 20 birdies over his final 36 holes. And maybe even more important, his playoff hopes now alive and well. Jumps from 110th in the FedEx Cup standings all the way up to number 53. Top 70 will make it into the playoffs in just 1 week to play, with the Wyndham Championship coming next week. Back up on HQ Post Round, where Kurt Kitayama, despite no rain, likes to seek shelter under that umbrella. His first win at the Arnold Palmer Invitational, his 2nd at an Arnold Palmer design. It's Kitayama by 1 in the Twin Cities. And for more, it's our pleasure to take you out to the Super Tower, where our friend and yours, Jim Nantz, joins us with parting thoughts from Blaine. Jim, this was quite a pace carried by Kurt Kitayama on the weekend. 20 birdies in total. What impressed you most about his play over the last 2 days?
The fact that he backed up, good to be with you, Moose. The fact that he backed up yesterday's 60 and comes out and birdies the first 3 holes today and 4 of the first 5. He had a stretch here of being 17 under over 25 holes. I mean, it's unheard of. It's unimaginable. So he was able to maintain that pace early that he set yesterday. And then he did a great job of holding off challenges that came his way from Sam Stevens, from Jake Knapp, and some others. And he's got an impressive game. And the fact that he was able to do it with his brother riding alongside, that made it extra sweet.
And no small task at the 72nd. A little downhill lie from that long right bunker, and he gets the job done. Down in 2, a winner by 1. I'm also interested in your point of view, having taken in these sorts of performances and moments over the years. When a player says they found something, like he did on Saturday, he obviously did, that aha moment by an elite, how do you process those sorts of moments? What does that look like to you?
Well, to me, it's fun when you see these players that are able to develop and take their games to the next level. And I was impressed by Kitayama in that 2023 season. You just referenced it a minute ago. He won Arnold Palmer's event at Bay Hill. And there were other close brushes the previous year, including at Scotland, where he's a runner-up to Xander Schauffele. And I thought, this guy's an up-and-comer. And he was a late bloomer at UNLV, but he has worked so hard. And the fact that he took that win from Arnold's event 2.5 years ago and still made changes to give himself more options, more ball flights. He was a left to right player. And he's come back now and can hit a draw shot. And he's got a great touch. And he went to Chris Cuomo, who's helped a lot of players out here on the tour. And he's rounded his game. So when you see something like this happen, it's like what happened to Chris Goddard up in Scotland a couple of weeks ago. All of a sudden you say, you know what, I think I could see this guy a lot more frequently on my weekend golf watching. This guy's got game, and he does.
And the difference between 110 and 55 in this case is 1 week as he climbs those FedEx Cup standings. We're looking at these important lines of demarcation with just 1 week to play, Jim, and 100, 70, 50, 30. They're all important, and there's a lot of different scoreboards being watched. How do you like the format and the pressure that it's put on these players down the home stretch?
Well, it's gotten particularly tighter this year with it being 70 really is the number you have to reach. You have to have 70 to get into the playoffs this year for the first time. So then you've got to, after one event, you've got to get to 50. And that 50 sets you on the path to yet another week, but a full year if you're in that top 50 of playing on all the signature events, the 8 signature events the following year. That's gigantic because it's a little self-fulfilling. If you get inside the top 50, most of which are no-cut events, you're going to be accumulating more points. It feeds it. It's a feeding frenzy. If you get in the top 50, you know, yeah, you have to play well to maintain it the following year, but you have to play really poorly to back up too far. So it's a golden frame to get inside of the top 50, and Kitayama right now is just barely outside the top 50. Of course, he's going to get the exemptions that come with the win, Augusta and everything else, but the signature events for so many players that are going to be in the field next week and are going to ride through the playoffs in the month of August, it's bigger than ever. It's more pressure than ever, and I think the Wyndham's going to take on, that's next week's event, is going to take on a different look. We have a stronger field because there are a lot of people not only trying to make sure they get closer to the 50 or even get into the 70 or even protect their position right now inside the 70. So I'm looking forward to it. In many ways, next week is the start of the playoffs.
One more week for the best team doing it. Golf on CBS. Jim Nantz, many thanks to you and the entire team that bring it to us week in and week out.
Joe, always a pleasure. Enjoy watching you, and nice to share a few moments with you here today. All the best, my friend.
Always my honor. Jim Nantz, we appreciate him stopping by here on CBS Sports HQ. It's the Wyndham Championship a week from now, and you know where to be. Streaming on Paramount Plus and coming your way on CBS. It'll also be Jim Nantz on different Sundays. We got football on the way. Helmet-to-helmet stuff here for Kurt Kitayama, your winner at the 3M. First word, as always, belongs to CBS Golf analyst Rick Gehman, our data scientist, here to put numbers to this name, and the numbers are sort of mind-bending when you look at it. We knew it was a birdie fest, but to go like he did on the weekend, Kurt Kitayama, 20 birdies in his final 36 holes. It's hard to put into words what he just accomplished. Didn't necessarily sprint across the finish line. What stood out to you?
He lapped the field, Joe. Yeah, picked up about 13 strokes to the field over the course of the weekend. I'm still running the numbers, but that's going to be one of the best weekends for an eventual winner that we've seen in the last couple of years. I look at what he did on the front nine on the weekend. He went out in 28 on Saturday. He went out in 29 on Sunday. That included birdies on every single hole on the front. And this is truly a scorecard out of PGA Tour 2K. I mean, this is video game stuff. It's unbelievable. And you're right, he did not necessarily sprint through the finish line, but he didn't have to. Building that lead, having that cushion, being able to make par on the last, including 2 putts from 12 or 15 some odd feet. That's the hard work that he put in throughout the rest of the hole. So yeah, really, really impressive stuff. It was shocking how many circles he was putting on the card.
I'm glad you brought up the front nine, 28 and 29 these last 2 days respectively. It's been on 59 watch for the better part of 48 hours, but plays it on Friday in 37. It's really the flipping of the script. He said prior to his round on Saturday he was looking for something, and he certainly did find it. Where did you see the difference from Kurt Kitayama, who went out and I believe 6 under in his first 2 days, in the way that he finished this tournament?
Yeah, for me, it was a lot of that iron play. We saw him just take dead aim at flag sticks all weekend long. It didn't matter if he was coming out of the fairway. It didn't matter if he was coming out of the rough. Didn't matter if he was coming out of fairway bunkers. He was taking on every single flag, and he was executing those shots nearly flawlessly. So I don't know what that feel is, Joe. I don't know what clicked specifically. I would love to know. He's probably not going to share with us. But the way that it shined through in his game seemed to be on those second shots, because he was giving himself so many opportunities, which he would go on to convert, of course, a ton of them.
And everything in this moment highlighted and amplified what these moments mean for your tour card next year, for your playoff hopes this year, all of those lines of demarcation, 100, 70, 50, and 30. Kurt Kitayama enters this week on the outside of all of them and is climbing up those rankings with this win. Did you see that inspire his play at all throughout this week?
Oh, it certainly has to. You know, we joke about how silly it is to say every shot matters in February and March. Well, it's not so silly anymore. Every shot does matter here when you're now just after this 4 rounds away from the FedEx Cup playoffs, and it's not been a great 2025 for Kurt Kitayama. This moves him up to 53rd in the FedEx Cup standings. He still has work to do. He wants to make sure he gets the East League. He wants to make sure he gets inside the top 50 to get into all the signature events. So perfect time for the victory. But he's going to have to quickly turn to the page, Moose, to look towards the Wyndham Championship and see if he can continue to accumulate those points.
Yeah, our final event of the season coming up next week at the Wyndham Championship on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus before we get to the FedEx Cup playoffs. And Kurt Kitayama will now be a part of it with this sort of performance. But as you said, got to keep moving forward. This win is a big feather in the cap, the second of his career again. And Arnold Palmer 2 years ago, and now on an Arnie design, he gets it done at the 3M. I know if he's not on your radar, there's really no reason to look. Rick Gehman doesn't miss much, is the point that I'm making as we forecast these tournaments from week to week. Talk to me about the stat profile coming in. Could you have pointed to this at all for Kurt Kitayama? A nice finish at the Deer, another nice performance after that, but did you give him any win share this week?
You mentioned it. Clearly breaking out of a slump, clearly trending in the right direction, but to snap off and go from some good, slightly above average finishes to basically running away with a golf tournament and making it look fairly simple, that gap was too big for me. No way did I think that was coming for Kurt. And I think it's just a testament, Joe. We say it all the time. And Max Homa's been very candid about this too. You know, you always feel like you are one shot away from being the #1 player in the world, and you always feel like you're one shot away from being the worst player in the world. And these guys walk that fine line constantly. And for this week, and specifically this weekend, Kurt Kitayama was the best player in the world.
And it did, in fact, require a downhill hanger, looking at some water, had to get it down in 3 at that 72nd hole. We don't have to look at the strategy. He walks away with the trophy. We do have other names to look at as well, Rick, because, again, we're applying them all to what's in front of us in the finale of this season and the FedEx Cup playoffs. I can't help but look at Akshay Bhatia, who we identified maybe in some groupthink as the experience in this field heading into Sunday in the final pairing. Neither show up in that final pairing between he and Thorbjorn Olsen. What did you make of the day for Akshay, or lack thereof?
It started bad and got worse from there. It was 3 big left misses off the first 3 tees, one including into the penalty area there, and it just never got any better. He could not find enough fairways, and there was a serious momentum issue, which is what you mentioned there, Joe, being alongside Thorbjorn Olesen, and these guys were just... They were just chopping it up. They're watching Kurt Kitayama go nuts. The leaderboard is shifting, and they are sitting there just stuck in neutral or going in reverse. So Akshay is going to have to look back at whether this was a burden of execution, whether it was a bad strategy, what it was, because this is going to end up being one of the worst professional rounds of his career and coming at a really, really bad time.
Yeah, not the time you want to call upon the sort of play we saw out of Akshay in that final pairing. We do also have to offer thoughts here on Chris Gotterup, who's been sort of the flavor of the month, and he could be more with the level of play that he's carried. Not the Sunday he's looking for, maybe not the Friday, Sunday he was looking for, but still really positive play. And I know this is a guy that you've been high on, Rick. We're going to get to a Ryder Cup preview later on in the hour, but just an opening thought here on Gotterup. I'm not going to ask you to put him on the team or not, but did he do enough in your eyes here domestically after the success abroad?
I'll put him on the team. That's fine. No, I like reserving a spot for the hottest player, not otherwise qualified, if you would put it that way. So I think that Chris Gotterup is certainly on that short list here. It wasn't perfect, but he's going to end up finishing inside the top 10 again. He's now going to get a little bit of rest moving forward. Doesn't seem like he's going to be playing the Wyndham Championship, and then he's going to be able to get to Memphis ready to go. He has the chance to play himself into this. You know, there's a solid 9 or 10 on the U.S. squad, and then there's a lot of question marks, and we'll see how the FedEx Cup playoffs decide those spots, but they will probably be a huge part of the decision-making process for Keegan Bradley. And if that's the case, then Chris Gotterup does have to be considered. Also take this for account, Joe. That 18th hole, the par 5, he played it at 2 over. He hit it in the water like seemingly every single day. But let's figure out a new strategy around 18 at TPC Twin Cities, and you might be looking at a podium finish here.
Rick Gehman getting us off the tee here at the 3M where Kurt Kitayama is the winner. We'll see what it is moving forward for Gotterup and others. We will move forward here on CBS Sports HQ with thoughts on the Ryder Cup, the FedEx Cup, and everything else they're handing out here over the next few months in the game of golf. But on this day, the lone trophy belongs to Kurt Kitayama, 23 under, head and shoulders better than Johnny Vegas's performance a year ago when the wind blew a bit harder, but he was the best in these conditions. Kurt Kitayama, 20 birdies on the weekend and his second career victory. More to come on HQ Post Round from the 3M. We'll get you out to the Super Tower in just a bit, where Trevor Immelman is standing by with his closing thoughts on the penultimate event of the PGA Tour regular season. Back on HQ Post Round to explore further with Shane Bacon and Rick Gehman. Shane, Rick and I sort of laid out some of the numbers, and I just can't get my eyes off of 20 birdies on the weekend for Kurt Kitayama. That was my summer quota, and he does it in 2 days here. What impressed you most about his ability to just take it as low as he did for these 2 days?
Well, I mean, first things first, Moose. I think I've seen 20 birdies out of you, so don't be. Let's not be throwing the audience off their game here. I mean, just hit it so close. I mean, you think about proximity to the hole, and you go through some of these highlights from Kitayama, especially early in this Sunday round. Not a lot of stress in those shots. I mean, when you're hitting it inside of 10 feet over and over and over again, routinely doing that, and you're hitting it close for eagles, it makes it a lot easier. And I mean, there wasn't a lot of stress on the golf game basically through that front 9 on Sunday. Got a little more stressful on the back 9, but what he was able to do, I mean, making the cut by 1 and then firing off those 2 rounds in a row, that is going and getting it at a golf course that forces players to go get it.
Yeah, I was just looking at the numbers, and Shane is absolutely right. Proximity for the week, 26 feet, 10 inches, first in the field in strokes gained approach, nearly 10 of them for the week. The last time we saw Kurt Kitayama get to double-digit approach numbers was 2024. He did it a couple times on the DP World Tour late and kind of lost all of that in 2025, which is why you're hearing him talk so much about the feels and the things that he's been working on. Well, it's working. It clicked. Now the big question question, I think, is going to be how long can he continue this? We've got a lot of guys who are entering the FedEx Cup playoffs or the Wyndham Championship, the final event before the FedEx Cup playoffs, just on the verge of being really, really hot. Is Kurt Kitayama one of those guys? Is Chris Gotterup one of those guys? Can they be spoilers in what is going to be a very interesting FedEx Cup playoffs? It's going to culminate with a very different Tour Championship with everybody starting at 0.
Yeah, Kitayama doubles down on what was a course record tied on Saturday, comes back with 65 and claims a trophy here on what was a 4-day sprint at the 3M. As we assess some of the names, I know for story's sake, there was a lot of rooting interest for Chris Gotterup, Jake Knapp coming into this final round. I want to go Gotterup first here, guys, because we're trying to synthesize this Ryder Cup roster, and a lot of people said, great job at the Scottish with the win. Great job at the Open Championship with the solo third, but we want to see something domestically. Shane Bacon, did you see enough out of Chris Gotterup to eke him ever closer to the back end of that roster?
Well, I'll pose the question back at you. Is the 18th at this golf course a part of the Ryder Cup? Because as long as that's not the case, then I think we'll be okay at Bethpage Black. I think the answer is yes. I wanted one good week to roll into the playoffs, and we got one good week basically right after the Open Championship. Gotterup's playing as good a golf as anybody not named Scotty Scheffler in the world. Hits it a mile off the tee. Great iron player. Obviously, the short game has been refined the last month. And for Gotterup, I mean, he's riding the momentum wave. And I thought Rick made a great point yesterday. The 12th spot on a Ryder Cup team should be reserved for the hottest player not already on the team. And right now, it's Chris Gotterup. And the fact that he's going to go in to the next few weeks riding this wave and having an opportunity to really make a push for Keegan Bradley's team. I've said it a few times, fellas. Keegan is the perfect captain for somebody like Chris Gotterup because Keegan's a guy that wasn't in the boys club and got left off teams in the past. I think Keegan's going to have a soft spot for players like Ben Griffin and Chris Gotterup, who aren't the biggest names in the world, but are playing fantastic golf because that suitcase is still packed from Keegan Bradley, and he knows what it feels like to play your way onto a team but still be left off.
I am so glad you mentioned that, Shane, because Moose and I talked about this a little bit on the network show earlier. If Keegan now is part of the boys club, he's inside the castle, he's pulled up the drawbridge behind him, and like, what are we doing here? It's absolutely right. Ben Griffin, Chris Gotterup have a great chance of making this team with Keegan Bradley as the captain. As good as the last 3 weeks have been for Chris Gotterup, and they've been amazing, let me remind everyone that he's been playing great golf all year long. He was about a stroke per round player prior to this 3-week stretch, so it's not like he was playing bad golf. He was piling up top 20 finishes basically every time he teed it up. So we've got a really strong resume brewing for Chris Gotterup. We have a really strong skill set. We've got a guy that I think is going to be very popular around Bethpage and someone that I think a lot of other potential U.S. Ryder Cup players are going to want to play with. So as long as he doesn't trip and fall coming down the home stretch here of the season and the playoffs, I think Chris Gotterup has found his way onto this Ryder Cup team.
Opportunity to offer further data points in the FedEx Cup playoffs, and it is time now for your FedEx Cup update, where now meets next. Fellas, one more tournament, the Wyndham Championship, before we get to those playoffs, and we take a look at the top 10, which remains unchanged. None of these names in the field. Scotty Scheffler far and beyond your leader in points due to his sterling season covered in gold. Rory McIlroy, a Grand Slam champion, coming in at number 2. And there's that name, rounding out the top 10. Keegan Bradley, quite a season. Going to call his own number. I now call upon two of my best, Shane Bacon and Rick Gehman, here to take a look at some of those lines of demarcation, whether it be 70, 50, 30. We just explored some of it with the great Jim Nantz and all that it's meant to these moments coming down the stretch. Rick, how have you seen it affect play? I think most notably, Jake Knapp had his hand forced on a Sunday, having to make something happen at the 72nd, but also underlining that was his position in these playoffs.
I have not always been a huge fan of the signature event style schedule that we have. I think it's good, not great. What it's created, Joe, along with the number of lines that we have, the number of cards that we have, the smaller playoffs, is all of these non-signature event fields are jam-packed. The Rocket Classic has the best strength of field it's had in its history. John Deere close to the same. Wyndham Championship is going to have it as well next week. I mean, we are getting really competitive golf every single week, and Jake Knapp goes from 55th before the week started to 47th, and he is going to try to cling hang on to that spot because top 50 gets you into everything, all the Siggies, everything you could possibly imagine in 2026. And it's going to be a very thin line. I mean, the ability to go from 47th to 51st or 39, like, it's not going to take much. And we saw the reaction from Knapp after he dumped it in the water on 18. He knows how valuable every shot is at the moment. It's going to make for a really great run the rest of the way.
And Rick, notable names are still notable names, no matter if you're playing great for the season or you're having an off year. I mean, I look at names like Max Homa and Ricky Fowler this week, to your point about strength of field. These players obviously trying to make a push to the top 70. Ricky had a solid week now in the top 70. You think about somebody like Chris Kirk, who's hanging right around that 70 number. All of these names in these last 2-week fields because they understand the importance of making it to the playoffs. And I think that's what's cool about the FedEx Cup playoffs is the major season ends and there's still something left for these players to play for because 2025 might not have been your year, but having opportunity in 2026 really comes from the way you win your season.
Perfect example of the opportunity out in front at the Wyndham is Kurt Kitayama's win here takes him from 110 to 53. I'm glad you invoked the name Max Homa, Shane, and I know there's past history there. You've shared a podcast with him before. You know the player well, you know the man well. What have we come to expect here down the stretch? Because it feels like trending is a word we can use, but the results haven't yet followed. What should we expect from Max here with one more opportunity?
Well, first things first, I got to give a shout out to Max. 23 seconds on the New York Times mini crossword the other day. Wow. I mean, I think it was one of his personal best. He was near the top of that leaderboard. And I asked him if he was more impressed with that or hitting 18 greens in the first round. He said, obviously, it's the crossword. But yeah, I mean, I think trending, I mean, we're close. We're very, very close with the golf swing. I mean, you're seeing moments from Max. And really, I mean, I go back to the PGA Championship in terms of moments from this guy because he's had his kind of hand around the lead or near the lead through 2 rounds and maybe hasn't quite figured that out on the weekend. But I feel like Max is finally getting comfortable with the golf swing and it's starting to show. And I think Max is one of those players that understands every week is an opportunity. And these weeks give him opportunity to make a push. I mean, getting left out of major championships is a bummer for somebody like Max who came so close at Augusta last year. Missing out on the FedEx Cup playoffs is a bummer for somebody like Max. And I think the most important for him is not being a part of the Ryder Cup discussion. But I think he understood when he went through the golf swing changes, considering the way he had played, it's going to take a little bit of time. I think about Tiger in 1998 when he didn't have his best stuff after the epic win in 1997. Now, these two guys aren't the same players, but you have to understand it might take a year, year and a half, even 2 years at times when you're making big changes with the golf swing. And once the changes start to set in, you can see real longevity in terms of your opportunity.
And wholesale changes there, the golf swing, the equipment, the team around him. But I don't think you get any pushback on the statement, better when he's there, when we apply it to Max Homa. We love watching the guy play golf. We'll see if he can sneak inside that top 70 with a final performance at the Wyndham. Rick Gehman, I need you to circle a name for me, someone you're going to be locked in on near any one of those important lines we talk about.
Oh, man, I do like the Kurt Kitayama story a lot. I will invoke Kobe Bryant. Job's not finished here, right? You win a golf tournament and you are just outside the top 50. You must continue to play well. We see a lot of guys who don't win very often find it very difficult to play well immediately after a big time win. They usually exhale a little bit. They've got winning obligations. They've got all this stuff they're going to celebrate. You can't do that if you're Kurt Kitayama, right? The way the schedule and the point system is set up, it demands that you play well again now. And the top-heavy point distribution means you cannot go out and finish T49 next week. It's not good enough. So I hope when Kurt, has his little celebratory dinner on Sunday night, he thinks about Kobe Bryant. He thinks job's not finished. There's still work to do here.
Give me one of the great stories in golf. Gary Woodland hanging at 75, had a solid week this week. But, I mean, I think in terms of sports fans, he's a name that's easy to root for considering everything he's been through the last couple of years. He's going to have to play well next week to jump into the top 70. But I think he's always a name I like seeing in terms of playoff golf. And I think if he could make it there, it'd be a very impressive kind of finish to what I can only imagine has been a very, very up and down season for the guy.
Woodland and Kitayama certainly, too, we will have an eye on with 1 week to play. So that's full circle for the man who made all the circles on this week. Kurt Kitayama, a winner once again. I'm always a winner with these two. Thank you, fellas. A look at your upcoming PGA Tour schedule. Again, the final event of the PGA Tour regular season coming your way on CBS and streaming on Paramount+. Next weekend at the Wyndham, Then a 3-pack of playoffs. FedEx St. Jude taking you to Memphis. The BMW going up August 14th through 17th in the greater Maryland area. And then the Tour Championship, as always, in Atlanta. A little new look at East Lake.